Hello, Dr. Shaw here, and welcome to another episode of Teaching Humanity Remotely. Today I want to speak with you about anxiety, how to help your child navigate situations that make them feel anxious. And I just have a question because I've been receiving a lot of email. You can always email me with your questions, concerns, topics you want us to address at learnwithmeremotely@gmail.com. And what I want to say is, what is the cause of childhood anxiety during this time of life? Is it something that was always present, but now that we have such a name for it, we give more life and attention to it? Or is it a new phenomena? So let's back burner that. And what I'm going to do in subsequent podcasts is really dive into that question, because it's something that I think needs a little research on my part. And if you have any information, please feel free again to email me and we can further discuss this. But I do want that to be a question that we hold in our minds and ponder and refer back to throughout this podcast and future podcasts. If we name something, do we give it life? Or is there really more anxiety? Do children really suffer more anxiety now than when I was a child or at any other time? I'm just not quite sure. So I do want to hold that as a question. What I want to say as to how we negotiate our own anxiety and our children's anxiety is, as you know, I believe everything we do is about modeling. So I feel like one thing I want to do when a child has an issue that might be new and foreign to them is I want to reassure them that that is part of living. It's part of living to have situations that we could be frightened of or become anxious in or need to retreat or not have strategies to know how to deal with. And so I think, once again, our modeling and our talking about it can help them. But I also feel like we don't want to talk about it so much that that becomes something we are anticipating and inviting our children to also have. We don't want children to have anxiety about something that they're not anxious about. So there's like a slippery slope, a thin line. So if your child starts to withdraw, or if your child might even say, I'm not feeling good and I don't know why. Often when it comes to anxiety, there's a level of discomfort, a kind of fear without knowing why. What I would do is I would talk to them about that, and I would have examples where I feel that way too. Sometimes, like for example, I went away for a few days with my family, and it was the most fantastic few days. It was so great. We were celebrating our son's well-being after being hospitalized for a number of weeks last month, and it was just a beautiful time together. And I got home, and the next day I just felt really out of sorts. And I don't know if it's because I was so elated just for a few days that coming home disorientated me, or if there was I just had free-flowing anxiety, and I didn't know why. So I would explain to my child, I can have that too. Sharing that makes it more human. You were more connected on this theme. Oh, we can both have that. What do you do when you have that? Well, help them face their fears. Let's say you share that you have a fear. I have a fear of snakes. So this is what I do. I try to not see a snake, or if I do see a snake, I avoid the snake, or I make sure when I go into the woods, I'm with a pal who's not afraid of snakes. Just really keeping it simple and somewhat light, but also explaining that you too can have these fears, and this is what you do when you have them. Talking to them, not over talking and not talking at them. That's very important, but sharing heart to heart with them. Create a safe environment. That's really, really important. Create an environment where it's safe, where you are making sure that your child feels supported and is not made to feel wrong. I think that's very, very important. So that's part of the conversation. And then establishing a routine. Sometimes you get anxious when you are out of your routine. And so very sensitive children often need to have a very strict routine. And then within the routine, incorporating the need for flexibility. That's a slippery slope too. So we're talking about some very big ticket items that are part of daily living and how to negotiate them. And once again, I always believe in if the more we front load without preaching and without front loading so much that we are inviting this situation to occur. So how do you front load anxiety? Well, if you know that, let's say, your child's starting in a new grade, and you know that when you started in a new class, it made you nervous, but you don't want to put your stuff on the child. You feel the child out. You say, how do you feel about starting school? And if they say they're so eager and everything is great, then you say, wow, that's great. Yeah, I love starting new things too. Let it go. If your child says to you, I'm feeling very nervous, then you can say, when I started a new class, I felt nervous too. But these are all the things I did when I felt nervous. I thought to myself, well, do I have a buddy in the class? And then if I did have a buddy, that made me feel more comfortable. And if I didn't have a buddy, I thought to myself, it's okay, I'm going to meet a buddy. And then you can review, like, how do you meet someone new? And then you can also let the teacher know, oh, my child's a little nervous. He doesn't know anyone in the class. And the teacher will most likely say, or you can ask the teacher to make sure that in the beginning of school they set up situations where there's like team building or meeting new people, like something like sit next to your neighbor and introduce each other, things like that, which teachers are going to do anyway. So you can give your child a sense of, I can see where that can make you feel a little anxious, but teachers have been teaching for a long time, and I bet they know that can happen, and they're going to do things in the beginning of school to make sure that you feel comfortable. And you can also write to the teacher without your child knowing, saying, this is just a little something that I'd like you to know about. My child feels a little nervous that he doesn't have a friend in the class yet, and we're hoping that you can do some like social skill building within the first few days to ease the burden, because I'm sure if my child feels this way, other children feel this way. And so that's one thing to do. Have them visit the school before school starts. There's usually time to do that where you'll meet your teacher or you'll see your classroom. So all of these things, and like if your child's moving into a new class or a new grade, a new school, like kindergarten, they're going into kindergarten, they feel anxious about kindergarten. Often schools will have a pre-kindergarten day where you're seeing the classroom and meeting the teacher prior to the school starting. So these are just, examples. And of course, you can think of many, many more. So the balance between talking to your child, talking with your child, not promoting so much attention that you're inviting your child to have anxiety when there isn't anxiety. But if your child comes and says that they are anxious, then I think that there are ways to help them through it. And also, never be afraid of counseling. I think I mentioned this, when my children were young. So I have a son who is paralyzed from the waist down, and my daughter is 2 years older than he is. And when my daughter was about, I don't know, I want to say like when they were about 10 and 8, or maybe 10 and 12, I said to them each, listen, I want you to just meet with someone and talk to this person who does like play therapy 5 times, because it's not enough to just do it once. And the reason is because you're going to be growing up and you're going to be going through things, and you're not going to always want to talk to your mom about it. So I want you to have like another grown-up that you can check in with and feel like you could share certain things that you might want to keep secret from me. But I am also going to be starting to worry about you, and I need to know that you're okay. So I want to be able to check in with that grown-up and say, are they okay? And that's all I need. This way you can have your privacy and your autonomy, but I know that I'm getting what I need, which is to have someone that I can check in with regarding your growth and independence. And you are also speaking with somebody who is going to help you. So these are ways that you can also lessen your own anxiety. So having an open and honest environment for your children to be able to talk with you, for children to be able to talk to their teachers when they are feeling a little anxious. And often one of the reasons we feel anxious is that we don't know why we're anxious. All of a sudden there's a feeling in the pit of my stomach that feels uncomfortable, and I'm not clear why. So when your child comes to tell you that, I would really listen. I would not negate that, because I think that's a true feeling. I would really provide strategies of how to deal with it. I would ask the child if they want to speak with someone else about it. If it gets to where it seems, like it's more than you can handle, and you can go with your child to that counseling session to see how you can build up strategies and the recommendations the counselor has for your child and also you as a family, because I am very interested in setting up family education plans. So instead of it being just an individual education plan, I think that any individual in a family makes it also part of the family's responsibility to see that education plan be implemented and followed. So I think it's a family issue. So if I have a child who has anxiety, then of course I have an opportunity to help my child navigate through that. So I think individual and also a little bit of family therapy can work. I think therapy, when done correctly and with a therapist that is the right therapist, I think it's very, very helpful. But also, it might not be needed if your child feels comfortable speaking with you about it and you feel comfortable providing strategies around the issues. It's a matter of how much intervention and support and help your child and you as a family need. I would give it the attention it requires, nothing more, nothing less. If it's a small, little, isolated moment, I wouldn't invite a conversation around it every single day, because then you're focusing on having anxiety. But if your child has a lot of anxiety and really feels out of sorts, I would make sure that I was listening to what was being said. I would make sure that I was ensuring that I had strategies to help my child, and I would do whatever was needed. And in regard to the question of, are more people having anxiety because we're giving a title to it and a name to it? Maybe, maybe not. But the first thing that needs to happen is we need to hear the call, and we need to make sure we are trying to remediate the situation and giving our children all the skills that they need to lessen their anxiety and feel more capable of navigating their world in the most fulfilling way possible, because we don't want our children to be suffering, and we don't want our children to be put on medicine prematurely. It's all about balance. As we grow, our hormones change. And I know for me, adolescence was a very difficult time. And I wouldn't want to make any decision to be put on medicine, let's say pre-adolescence, because, you could just be feeling out of sorts because you're feeling out of sorts because you're so hormonal and your body's changing and you're going through so many different changes mentally and physically and then socially and emotionally. So I would try other strategies first. And I also would be modeling my own challenges, the fears that I go through, how I overcome them, strategies I have such as meditation or self-talk or social stories. Oh, I know I'm going to be in a new social situation and that makes me nervous. When I'm in a new social situation, I scan the room, I look around, I see if I know anyone, I smile, I say hello, and I just feel like I'm okay. And if I don't know anyone, but I really want to still be there, I say to myself, wow, I am courageous and I am brave and I am proud that I'm doing something that's making me a little uncomfortable, but I know I really want to do it. And if I'm so uncomfortable, I could also not do it. So all these different strategies that I'm going to be discussing with my children to make sure that they feel the most comfortable. And I'm validating them, and I'm also letting them know, really giving them the assurance that this is part of growing up. And even us grown-ups get nervous in situations, and this is how we deal with them. Keep the communication open, but don't give attention just to that negative experience, making sure that a lot of positive things are being discussed. So, for example, you can have something like, this is a nice thing to have at dinner time. You discuss your low. Oh, today my low was I felt really uncomfortable in the lunchroom. And what did you do for that? Well, I ate quickly and then I went out for recess. Or, I just stayed being uncomfortable and I wish I had a different strategy. And then you could discuss that. And then you end with a high note. And what was your high? Well, my high today was that I really wrote like a great paragraph and my teacher really loved it and I felt really good about it. So ending with a high note. So you're always discussing things that you want to give attention to because they're so fulfilling already, or they're moving in the direction of true fulfillment. But you're also remediating and addressing that which isn't working so you can fix that towards being more fulfilling. So I hope this really helps you. I am going to do further research about this question of anxiety. I don't know really how important that is, because it's really about making sure that we are addressing what is in front of us right now and having our children feel the safest that they can and the most fulfilled that they can. There's also a lot of talk in school amongst kids being on medicine for anxiety or depression. So then your child comes home and thinks, do I need that? So there's all these different things that are coming at them. There's also a balance between looking at social media for young children and being on devices versus the need to just have human to human contact. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of research saying how important it is to have human to human contact and to lessen devices when we can, because there is a negative. I know for myself that I don't like to go on Facebook. What I do in my life, I never put on Facebook, because the people that I want to know about what I'm doing already do. And so I don't need to publicize that. But when I look at other people's lives, and I'm a grown up and I'm very reasonable, and I can, wow, they look like they have such a good life. So if I didn't have a fulfilling life myself, it could make me feel very unhappy. So I would also make sure that we're monitoring social media. That could be, I think, very unfulfilling for children and human beings at all ages, to make sure that we're not doing anything that's hurting us. I'm only trying to do things that enhance my life. So when I see that if I watch a certain TV show, or I listen to a certain show, or I see something on social media that's making me feel not good, I stop doing that. But I'm a grown up and I can do that. And if I was a child, I might not be able to know what's making me uncomfortable. So to make sure that you are monitoring that and having conversations about that. So those are all the ways in which you can help your child negotiate the world, the current world around them, which is not easy to negotiate. But it is what we're given, and life is a blessing, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we model the most fulfilling life, because we have the most fulfilling life, and that's what we invite our children to participate in as well. Until next time, please feel free to visit me at learnwithmeremotely@gmail.com. Feel free to go to my author's page, Dr. Mindy Shaw, at Amazon paperbacks. Thank you. Be well.